Weird crime facts. In 1980, autistic savant Mark DeFriest was sentenced to 4 years in prison after quote-unquote stealing tools left to him in his father's will. However, his original sentence has since developed into 34 years after 13 escape attempts, 7 of which were successful. Known as the Houdini of Florida, DeFriest could replicate any key by memorizing their pattern and reconstructing them out of anything available. Serial rapist Billy Milligan had a mental disorder that split his mind into at least 24 different personalities. Each personality featured a different speech pattern, accent, and sitting position. He was famously acquitted in court due to the claim that 2 of his alternate personalities had committed the crimes without Milligan being aware of it. Weird nature facts. This is why you should never touch a tree branch in Australia. The wraparound spider can flatten and wrap its body around tree limbs for perfect camouflage. The same whale was found and photographed after 35 years off the western coast of Mexico. The Atlas moth scares off predators by imitating the appearance and behavior of a snake. The moth will often fall to the ground when threatened and flap around to look like a writhing cobra. Weird crime facts. This photo is the definition of fear. A young woman in LA was evading a home intruder by hiding on her roof, and she managed to grab her phone and call 911. She said that her greatest fear was that the intruder would try to hide where she was hiding. Authorities soon had the area surrounded, and the man is now in prison. The top map shows mysterious cases of people vanishing without a trace. The bottom map shows America's largest cave systems. Juan Catalan spent nearly 6 months in jail for the murder of a teenage girl. He was the prime suspect only until his lawyer found some unused footage from HBO's Curb Your Enthusiasm. The footage proved that Catalan had been at a Dodgers game with his 6-year-old daughter at the time of the murder. Don't watch this one unless you're ready to cry. In 1939, a mentally disabled 23-year-old man named Joe Arity was falsely accused of the rape and murder of a teenage girl. He was sentenced to death in Colorado, and the moments leading to his execution are nothing short of heartbreaking. Joe was known for playing with a toy train given to him by the warden, who called Joe the happiest prisoner on death row. It was clear, however, that Joe didn't understand the situation or his impending execution. For his last meal, he requested ice cream and even saved some for after the execution. He was reported to have smiled while being brought to the gas chamber and was only momentarily nervous until the warden grabbed his hand and reassured him. Arity was officially pardoned 72 years after his death, after evidence had proven that he was coerced into confession. Weird War Facts, Part 1. On August 6, 1945, Tsutomu Yamaguchi was on business in Hiroshima when the first atomic bomb exploded. The blast ruptured his eardrums, blinded him temporarily, and left serious burns all over his body. 2 days later, he returned to his job in Nagasaki, and his co-workers called him crazy as he recounted the details of a single bomb destroying an entire city. Just then, a second atomic bomb was dropped nearby, wiping out most of Nagasaki, but Yamaguchi survived again. He is the only man who is officially recognized for surviving both nuclear explosions. Weird Nature Facts, Part 9. In 1989, a Costa Rican fisherman named Chito rescued a dying crocodile and nursed it back to health. He tried to release the croc back into the wild, but it just kept coming back. The two would eventually become best friends, and for the next 2 decades, Chito would swim and play with the croc in the river outside of his home. He would hug and kiss the 16-foot-long crocodile he named Pocho, and taught it many tricks. Pocho knew how to roll over, wink, and would let Chito put his head in his mouth. The monster croc even responded when his name was called. Pocho sadly died in 2011, but this amazing crocodile-human relationship will never be forgotten. Weird Halloween Facts. This 16th century woman from Venice was accused of being a vampire. She was buried with a brick in her mouth to prevent her from feasting on victims of the plague. This massive flying fox was found napping in someone's backyard in the Philippines. On one October night in 1997, someone managed to impale a pumpkin on top of McGraw Tower at Cornell University. The tower is more than 170 feet tall, and to this day, no one knows how the culprit did it. Morbid facts. Bobby Driscoll, the original voice of Peter Pan, became addicted to narcotics when his acting career failed as he got older. In 1968, two little boys got lost while playing in Manhattan's abandoned underground area, and they found Driscoll's rotting body. His body was surrounded by beer bottles, a religious pamphlet, and a wooden crucifix. He was only 31 years old. An elderly woman in the People's Temple cult at Jonestown took a nap before the community committed the largest mass suicide in modern history. She woke up to more than 900 dead bodies scattered around her. This is what true horror looks like. In 2016, 13-year-old Abigail Williams and her friend Libby German were hiking on a trail in Indiana when they disappeared. A search team was sent out for them, and their bodies were found the very next day. The last known photo of Abigail, as well as photos of an unidentified man, were found on Libby's phone. There was also an audio clip of presumably the same man saying the phrase, "down the hill." No arrests have been made so far, but law enforcement has assured locals that the case has not yet gone cold. Weird nature facts. A rare golden possum was found in Australia and named Pikachu for obvious reasons. Its golden yellow fur is the result of a genetic mutation that affects the possum's melanin production. This picture shows invasive coyotes meeting reintroduced wolves for the first time at Yellowstone National Park. In 1997, tree hugger Julia Hill started living in a 1,500-year-old California redwood tree to prevent loggers from cutting it down. She ended up staying there for a total of 738 days, and the tree still stands to this day. Weird crime facts. In 1915, convicted Mexican revolutionary Wenceslas Moguel was sentenced to death without a trial. He was shot 9 times by a firing squad, but miraculously survived all 9 bullets. He even survived the coup de grace, one final shot at point-blank range to ensure death. Although in excruciating pain, Moguel waited for his executioners to leave before he fled the scene and made his way to safety. He amazingly lived on for another 60 years, dying at the age of 85. Weird war facts. In 1973, the U.S. Army developed an anti-tank grenade by hollowing out a Nerf football and filling it with explosive charges. However, the prototype never made it to the battlefield, since the explosives gave the ball a wild and unpredictable flight. According to the Geneva Conventions, if you play dead to kill an enemy in a war scenario, then you are committing a war crime. During World War II, it was common for soldiers to keep photos of their loved ones under transparent grips on their M1911 pistols. They were known as sweetheart grips. Morbid facts. This photo shows the dramatic differences between 2 boys who were exposed to the same smallpox source in 1901. One of them was vaccinated, the other one was not. These punishing shoes were a type of medieval torture device. The victim would have to stand on their tippy toes for as long as they could before falling back and having rusty spikes jammed into their heel. Artist William Udermolen was diagnosed with Alzheimer's disease in 1995. Over the next 5 years, he drew these self-portraits of himself which displayed the devastating effects of the disease. Morbid facts. After being shot in the forehead by a drunk man and enduring an 8-year coma, policeman Gary Dockery suddenly woke up. He started talking enthusiastically, recognizing old friends and recalling events from past years. But by the very next day, he could no longer speak, and he slipped back into the same coma and never woke up again. In the 1980s, a family owned and operated a ceramics factory in California called Oscar Ceramics. But in 1987, the factory was revealed to be an illegal crematorium. This was only uncovered when a passerby, who happened to be a Holocaust survivor, recognized the smell of burning bodies from his time at Auschwitz. Weird war facts. This is a group of teenage kamikaze pilots posing with a cute puppy on the day before their missions, taken in 1945. This is what most of the trenches used during World War I look like today. At 4 a.m. on a Sunday morning, residents in the German town of Limburg woke up to the sound of a sudden blast. The next morning, they found a crater the size of a house in a nearby cornfield. Authorities soon determined that the blast was created by a 500-pound German bomb from World War II that spontaneously detonated. Weird war facts. This is a group of teenage kamikaze pilots posing with a cute puppy on the day before their suicide missions, taken in 1945. This is what most of the trenches used during World War I look like today. At 4 a.m. on a Sunday morning, residents in the German town of Limburg woke up to the sound of a sudden blast. The next morning, they found a crater the size of a house in a nearby cornfield. Authorities soon determined that the blast was created by a 500-pound German bomb from World War II that spontaneously detonated. Ancient discoveries. This Incan girl was found perfectly preserved at the base of an Argentinian volcano. Her frozen body has been hailed as one of the best preserved Incan mummies ever found, as her hair, skin, and clothes still remain completely intact. She was likely the victim of a religious sacrifice some 500 years ago. This prehistoric fossil depicts a megalodon tooth stuck inside of a whale vertebrae. In 2011, a pair of Swedish treasure hunters detected a strange anomaly at the bottom of the Baltic Sea using sonar. While most scientists claim that it's a natural geological formation, some say the Baltic anomaly is something more mysterious, such as a sunken city or an ancient alien spacecraft. Morbid facts. In 1985, a 13-year-old Colombian girl was trapped up to her waist in volcanic mud flow. She was mostly alert and was interviewed, but rescuers couldn't find a way to save her. Knowing she would certainly die, volunteers did their best to comfort her. She died after 60 hours, and her image became iconic. In 2008, a Brazilian priest strapped 1,000 balloons onto a lawn chair and rode it into the sky as part of a fundraiser. He was able to reach an altitude of 20,000 feet before losing contact with authorities. Over a month later, the lower half of his body was found floating near an oil rig. Morbid facts. After being diagnosed with polio at age 3, Diane Odell spent nearly 60 years encased in a 750-pound iron lung. She only died when a power outage shut down the machine that had been keeping her alive for decades. Do you know why you wake up right before you're about to die in a dream? It's because your brain doesn't know what it's actually like to experience death. In 1901, Madame Bobbin from England fell ill late into her pregnancy and was pronounced dead. But a few days later, one of the nurses was tormented by the idea that she may have been buried alive. After Madame Bobbin's father was alerted of this, he demanded that the grave be dug up immediately. When the coffin was open, he was horrified to find the corpse of a baby with an uncut umbilical cord laying between his now dead daughter's legs. Weird nature facts. This is an incredible photo of an orangutan using a spear-like item to catch fish. According to many scientists, orangutans are entering their own Stone Age, meaning they're beginning to discover the use of basic tools. The vision of the pronghorn antelope is comparable to a human wearing wide-angle 10 times power binoculars. In other words, on a clear night, they can see the rings of Saturn. The great patoo is an extremely rare tree-dwelling bird from tropical America. The bird is known for its eerie nocturnal cries and its stump-like appearance, making it a spooky master of disguise. Not to mention, it looks like an alien bird. Morbid facts. Part 6. Young filmmaker Lee Halpin was filming a documentary about the hardships of being homeless by living as one. But he was found dead in the streets only 3 days into filming. The nuclear blast in Hiroshima was so powerful that some people were vaporized instantly, leaving only shadow imprints of their final moments. In the 1970s, a man who committed suicide by jumping off the Golden Gate Bridge left a note saying, "I'm going to walk to the bridge. If just one person smiles at me along the way, I won't jump." Weird crime facts. A 45-year-old woman named Christine Barnett adopted a 6-year-old girl in 2010. The woman was recently charged with abandoning her daughter in Indiana and fleeing to Canada back in 2013. However, Barnett claims that her daughter is actually a 22-year-old sociopath with dwarfism who is pretending to be a child. She also claims that the girl has attempted to kill her on multiple occasions. She says the girl has tried to push her into an electric fence, has poured bleach into her coffee, and has threatened to stab her in her sleep. The woman claims that the adoption was a scam and that the girl was actually born in 1989. Ancient discoveries. This Pleistocene wolf is so well preserved that it looks like it could still be snarling today. It was found in Siberian permafrost, in the spot that it likely died some 40,000 years ago. This 2,000-year-old Roman bathhouse found in Algeria is still in use today. This is a sample of amber containing the bone, tissue, and feathers of a coelurosaur from the Cretaceous period. Researchers believe that this has the potential to be the most conclusive evidence so far that dinosaurs were feathered. Morbid facts. The woman who voiced the demon Pazuzu in The Exorcist had a son who killed his whole family. He then proceeded to shoot himself in both temples simultaneously. And he did all of this while wearing a Freddy Krueger mask. The White House owns a doomsday plane in the case of an end-of-the-world event. It is a modified Boeing 747 that can apparently withstand terrorist attacks, a nuclear bomb, and asteroid blasts. It can also stay airborne for days without refueling. In 2011, Tokyo officials went to congratulate the oldest man in the city on his 111th birthday. But instead, they found his mummified remains laying on his bed. He had been dead for 30 years and his family was still collecting the pension money that he was receiving. Weird nature facts. A man from South Africa adopted a hippo after it was rescued from a river. 5 years later, the hippo dragged him into the same river and mauled him to death. Armed with giant canine teeth, hippos kill more people each year than lions, elephants, leopards, buffalo, and rhinos combined. They can run at speeds up to 30 miles per hour despite weighing up to 4,000 pounds. So yeah, don't get a pet hippo. Point Nemo is officially known as the oceanic pole of inaccessibility, aka the point in the ocean that is farthest away from land. It is surrounded by more than 1,000 miles of ocean in every direction. At any given time, the closest humans to this point are most likely to be astronauts. Morbid facts. Part 8. A grieving mother from Florida added a sandbox to the gravesite of her baby boy so that her older son could play with him. Forced standing was a barbaric form of treatment that was believed to be a cure for insanity in the 19th century. The mental patient would be forced to stand in a compact cell for days at a time with very limited food, water, and outside contact. This is a real photo of a patient enduring this treatment at a Texas mental institution in 1890. In 1977, the University of Evansville men's basketball team was involved in a tragic plane crash. The crash killed every player on the team, except for one man who didn't make the trip due to an injury. 2 weeks later, the only remaining player was killed by a drunk driver. Weird crime facts. A man walked into a Walmart wearing an employee vest and told the cashier they were wanted in the office. He then helped the remaining customer in line, emptied the cash register, and walked right out with the money. He likely robbed other Walmart locations this exact same way. This weapon is called the Apache revolver. They were used by the French game Les Apaches in the early 1900s. It is the concept of a pepperbox revolver, a knuckle duster, and a dual-edged knife all built into one. In one of his interviews, serial killer Richard Ramirez once said, "When I die, I want to be buried with sunglasses on and my hands tied behind my head, so when I deteriorate, I'll be the chillest skeleton in the graveyard." Morbid facts. Jake Thompson was home alone when he had both of his arms ripped off in a farming accident. However, he still managed to get up and dial 911 with a pencil in his mouth. He miraculously survived and both of his arms were reattached. For centuries, there was a paint pigment called mummy brown that was made out of the ground-up remains of ancient Egyptian mummies. The color was manufactured until 1964, when the supply of ancient mummies was finally expended. This is a photo of two engineers embracing for one final hug while standing on top of a wind turbine engulfed in flames. One of the men jumped to escape the fire while the other one was burned alive while attempting to reach the staircase. Weird crime facts. In 2015, 3-year-old Jair Sims was found dead in a park in Maryland while his mother was pushing him on a swing. It is believed that she pushed him on the swing for 45 hours straight, even in the rain. Romisha Sims, who is schizophrenic, had suffered from a psychotic breakdown while playing with her son at the park. By the time she woke up, her son had died as a result of hypothermia and dehydration. She was found legally insane and not criminally responsible for the tragedy of her son.